Greetings, everyone, and welcome to today's program. My name is Warren Stokes, and I am delighted to introduce you to the live painting channel premiere event. We will begin action momentarily. In the meantime, if you're chosen to do a paint along, be sure you've grabbed all your gear, your paints, your brushes, your palette, and of course all the correct gear. A little bit of background before we get into the live painting, which I promise will start very quickly here. Just why did I in fact create this live painting channel? Well, I love art. I've always loved it. Fascinated by the process of creativity for sure. It just seems like by doing art, whether it's drawing, painting, photography, I'm just able to more fully appreciate every day, every moment. I also am a bit of a history buff and have done a lot of live webinars, but I got to tell you, this is my first time I've ever done a live painting program, so it's going to be a lot of fun, I think, today. Some of the goals that I have is really to create a new venue for artists where they can, do things like just share their work or collaborate with other artists. Perhaps it's going to be an opportunity for people to get, more exposure for their art. And I really want this to be a channel that has content for all skill levels, beginner, stick drawings, up through masters of the arts, and it's absolutely free to everyone. The mediums we'll be talking about will be a number of them, but we're going to mostly be talking about, in my live painting program, will be focused on acrylic paintings. It's good for spontaneous art. As you'll see, that's exactly what we're going to be doing. These are just a few samples of some of my paintings. I've also enjoyed oil paintings. Oil paintings are wonderful, but they take a long time to produce and a lot of preparation, a lot more gear. Colored pencil drawings are a great way to just spontaneously capture different information, visual or other, and just kind of record your events. I've done a lot of pencil drawings while backpacking or traveling. It's a really nice way to just keep your art skills going. And last but not least, watercolors. Now, watercolors are a really fine medium, more difficult than many people might imagine, but I've used them often for open air painting. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start with some basics. Just talk a little bit about how to, compose a painting. Talk a little bit about light and dark, the importance of color theory, and one of the things you need to do is establish the direction of light. Later in another program or future programs, we'll talk about more advanced things like vanishing points, more advanced brush techniques, layering and adding detail. So now, I'm just going to take me a moment to go from here into my artist studio. And here we are. You are now in the live studio. We're getting ready to do some painting, but first things first. As I mentioned, you have to have the proper gear. So let me, first of all, get my art gear on. There we go. And I think it's just like mountain climbing or any other activity, you have to have the right gear. So let me just get into my art gear. All right, here we go. So today we're actually going to be producing a live painting. Imagine that, based on the name of the channel, right? The live painting channel. We're going to create a painting on this canvas. And I want to point out that you can paint on all kinds of different materials. Some people paint on cardboard, masonite, panel board. They might have stretched canvases. If you don't know what that is, that's canvas stretched on a frame. Really nice. You can purchase them pretty inexpensively. I've made a lot of my own. You can also resize these. Future program, we'll get into more of that. But today, I've got a canvas board. And we're going to talk a little bit about composition to start off with, and then color, and then we're going to start painting. Are you all ready? All right. All right, and by the way, I'll be monitoring my chat panel here. If you have any questions, requests, thoughts, comments, send emojis, whatever you want to do, it's live, it's participating, and over time, my intent is to make this channel to be kind of a hangout zone. I'm also on Twitch now, by the way. If you don't know what that is, PM me or chat me, and I'll get you hooked up to my Twitch channel. But anyway, let's start with composition. And oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I really think painting should be relaxing. I don't think many people do painting to increase their anxiety levels. So when you get into your painting mood, basically just relax, get your gear together, maybe pour a cup of your favorite beverage. One of my favorite cups, by the way, it's my dad's truck. He's doing great. This is his 37 Ford pickup truck. Got it from my brother Kurt at his family reunion. And by the way, Kurt, happy birthday, bud, if you're watching this, all right? This is a cup that he gave me. In any event, you have to be a little careful about not doing too many product placements, So, but anyway, like I was saying, relax, get your favorite beverage, and let's start some painting here. Okay. I've chosen a subject that I've painted before, but I wanted to kind of give everyone a little bit of idea as to what this is all about. So this is, in fact, I just got back from walking this park, and this is, in fact, the scene that I've seen hundreds of times, walked there a couple times a week. It's just a nice little scene that I enjoyed, and I took a photograph, or probably 100 photographs of it, and painted this recently. So that'll be kind of the inspiration for this particular painting. But remember, being the artist, it's all up to you. You can paint whatever the heck you want. Subject matter, though, often for me, I'm inspired by things like places I go, events, sometimes other works of art. Photography is a great way to get inspired. I've taken thousands of photos and oftentimes use them for reference, and really just actually open air painting. It's called plein air painting. If you ever want to try that, give it a go. Love to hear how it goes, by the way. So we're going to talk first about composition. Now, composition is really just the way that you place the elements of the painting, in this case, on the canvas, and what relationship you want them to have. You can have your painting be vertical. I got a few quick examples. I mean, you could have it vertical, and you'll have different elements to the painting. And where you place them actually has a lot to do with the visual appeal of the painting. In this case, I've got a bird coming out of the sky, a yellow ray of sun, and so forth, horizontal there, horizon. And if you're doing any kind of a landscape, you want to think a lot about the horizon. So let's figure out how I might want to create a horizon. Well, I could just create a horizon right in the middle of the page. That would be kind of static. I like to do what I call dynamic symmetry. So symmetry is basically when things are balanced, and people would often think, well, balance, that sounds like a pretty good way to do art. Well, I guess so. There's a lot of art that does that. Mandalas, I can think of a lot of geometric designs and so forth, but I'm going to introduce a concept of what's called dynamic symmetry. I know it sounds like a bit of an oxymoron, but here's how it works. And by the way, I learned this, quick story, I was actually a long time ago, I was hitchhiking around, and I decided to go look for an art guru. And I got picked up by this guy, old guy in a pickup truck, and he says, well, what are you doing? Where are you going? And I said, well, if you really want to know the truth, I'm looking for an art guru. And he told me, really? I know where your art guru is. I said, what? Really? That's a true story. And he said, yeah, you need to go to Bisbee, Arizona, and look up a man named Damien. And I was just like apoplectic there for a moment. Why? Because I was born in Bisbee, Arizona. Nobody's born in Bisbee, Arizona. True story. I met the guy. He's a fantastic artist. When I finally got to have some time with him, he said, Warren, your first lesson is to go research and study dynamic symmetry. He didn't actually give me any lessons other than tell me that was what I had to do. He showed me some of his work, and I was just flabbergasted. It was amazing work. And he explained it that I had to go research it. So I found the book. And by the way, if you want to make a note of this, it's called The Elements of Dynamic Symmetry by J. Hambidge, written back in the 40s. But it's a great treatise on dynamic symmetry, which dates back thousands of years, by the way. We didn't just invent this. Here's how it works. One of the most important aspects of any rectangle elements is the main diagonal, it's called. It's from one corner to the other. Of course, a rectangle has two of them. You can do the math. The second most important element in a rectangle is the right angle to that main diagonal. You could actually, I often have just little squares here, and you can see that if I was to take a right angle and intersect it with my main diagonal at the corner, that becomes a key point, part of the dynamic symmetry and part of the composition. So you can start building a little bit of background composition this way. Take a pencil or whatever you like. Some people use a little charcoal or just even your brush, and start sketching out some of the elements. Now, where that right angle met the edge, is a point that I like to refer to and have different elements of my painting. And I'll just make a little line there, nice little line. You know, just in case I want to do it on this side, let's just make a nice little line here. Okay, very good. And you know what? That seems to indicate something there. I don't know what yet, but it looks like a nice little thing, the element. And you know, like maybe right here to here. Now, these aren't just completely random little elements. As you can tell, I've actually got kind of a method to my madness here. Anyway, it's up to you again, but this could be later where some clouds are going to be coming down. Let's just sort of do a little background sketch here. All right, so let's do that. Let's make a few little nice little clouds coming down here, and I'm not going to do a whole lot of nice little trees, by the way, although I very much respect Bob Ross, one of my early mentors, by the way. But you know, maybe a cloud ought to pop up over here, and maybe it ought to go back in here, and who knows, a little cloud right in there. Oh, interesting how that's kind of following some of my geometric designs, okay? Now, we're going to talk briefly about vanishing point. You don't have to worry about it too much. In fact, a lot of it just sort of comes naturally, but I'll explain. There's actually several types of vanishing point techniques because they go from kind of simple, intermediate, and advanced. I'm going to show you the basic one. So vanishing point is what makes the eye perceive depth in a painting. So in a building, it's kind of that, you know, buildings don't look always square. They look kind of like up here. If you see in the background, I have a little building there. But in this case, I think we're gonna create a field here, and I might want to have some elements going towards a vanishing point. So I'm just gonna make a little line here, another little line here, and they all are going to that one little area, that one vanishing point, I'm calling it. You can just take any sort of ruler or T-square or whatever you like, and you can kind of see how I'm making my lines to the vanishing point. Doesn't have to be exact. In fact, I'm going to paint right over it. There we go. Vanishing point here. Interesting. Okay. Now, we are going to start some painting. The first thing we have to do is we have to create a palette. Now, if you don't know what a palette is, since I said this is all as much for beginners as anyone, it's just a little thing that you can buy or create or make. They often have a hole in them and a place to kind of hold the palette, and that's where you put your colors, and that's where we're going to mix them. Okay. So what I have over here, I have a palette that I'm just starting. So the idea here is that you will take your paints and you will put them in this palette. By the way, palettes can be any size. I remember Bob Ross used to use this huge, gigantic one. But maybe I'll get one of those. But for today, I just squirted a little bit of the colors that I'm going to use into my palette. Now, there's a little bit of method here, too. My one warning of the palette. Don't get too many colors. Don't get crazy on how many colors you put in. In fact, you'll see other than my white and gray, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 basic color groups. Now, in the yellow, I'm adding a couple of my favorite pigments. Let me share what those are. By the way, white, you have to have a lot of white when you're painting. It just turns out to be the case. That's why they sell it in the big tubes, by the way. But in this case, red, I just like a nice cadmium red. It's called cadmium red. We'll use it sparingly, as you'll see. Unless you want to paint, I don't know, a bunch of big roses that are red. My yellows, my favorites are Naples yellow, which is the lighter kind of yellowish tint, and yellow ochre. And those are nice soothing yellows, not too bright, but I add just a touch of cadmium yellow there, just a speck here and there, as you'll see. Today I'm going with phthalo blue. I also like ultramarine blue. I just have 2 of them because I'm going to mix them a little bit in a minute. And then I have green. Now, yellow and blue make green. If you don't know much about the color wheel, we'll study that in a future program. But it turns out that complementary colors will give you a nice neutral color if you don't overdo it. For example, yellow and green make a brown. Purple and orange make a brown. Red and green make a brown, and so on. So basically, I'm picking out 4 or 5 colors, and I've added my favorite gray, which is a dark gray called Payne's Gray. So I'm going to go ahead and start mixing some colors, and we're going to paint. First, choose your brush. Now I'm going to start back to front. This is an important concept in painting. There's depth, at least in this painting, there's going to be depth. The farthest back is, on a landscape, the sky. Good guess. the next maybe layer or the next level up might be clouds, okay? And then we're going to have the back row of vegetation or trees or whatever things we want to put in there. And then the front field and maybe some bushes and whatever we decide to put in there. Cats and dogs and elephants, whatever. But we're going to go from back to front. Now, another little rule, it's really not a rule because you'll see why I say that, is that you really can't make a mistake. In fact, sometimes mistakes are your best thing in art. So let's just go ahead and start painting. I'm using acrylic, so I have a bunch of water jugs over here. Oh, pickle jars, quart jars, canning jars, whatever. And I've just chosen a nice little square brush. And I'm going to start by mixing a little bit of blue, and I'm going to make the first one kind of my darker shade of blue. So without spilling it on my floor. By the way, it's good to have like a painter's throw or something on your floor, which I do right now. I've ruined a lot of rugs. So I think my darkest shade of blue might be about that color. It's up to you, but that's about what I'm going to do. So I'm kind of happy today. It's a good day. I'm going to start by just getting some paint on the canvas. Look at that. Just throwing a little paint up here on the canvas. Got to be kind of loose, I think, anyway. You know, just get some paint on the canvas. Got to start somewhere, right? Here we go. Now, sometimes I might watch those little lines, little composition lines, and, you know, give myself a little guidance there. But, you know, there we go. Now, maybe the sky is a little darker over here. So I'm just going into my blue. And, oh, got to get a little more water. Okay, got to keep the brush fluid. All right, so maybe up in here, just a little darker. You know what, though, sometimes really shocking blue is just too blue, if you can imagine that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little area here with some Payne's gray. And it just kind of takes the edge off a little. And in nature, you don't often see really super, pure colors. Not always true, but be sparing with those. So see how I just adding a little gray up in there? In fact, maybe I'll just put a little whiter gray to that same thing here. Nice, okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it go lighter and lighter and lighter as it gets to the bottom here. And just by putting a little white on my brush. Right. I mean, it doesn't really hurt wherever I want to put it. Alrighty then. Nice, okay, cool. So that's not a bad start, but you're going, well, that's painting? Holy crap, that doesn't look very good. Well, it's not done yet. Be patient. Step back and just make sure your light and dark are working for you. Like, you know what? It's kind of a blustery day, and in fact, I'm going to make this corner just a little darker. Hey, if it gets too dark, I can always brighten it up, right? It's up to you. Remember, we're just having some fun over here. But I'm going to make this whole little corner somewhat darker. All right. Kind of liking that. Even a little darker yet, right up in here. Go for it. Ooh. Storm. Something coming. Okay. Nice. Okay. There we go. Now I'm gonna do what's called feathering. What brush do I want? Well, you know what? I want a fan brush. Let me find a fan brush over here. Ooh. Here's a fan brush of all fan brushes right here. Okay. It's called a fan brush. Ask the person next to you, why do you think it's called a fan brush? All right, now I don't want it too wet, but I don't want it completely dry, and I'm just going to go a little feathering. It's called. There we go. Now the thing about this is, if you do horizontal feathering, it's going to keep your continuity of dark to light in bands kind of across the top. Here we go. Can't really hurt anything. That's basically about it. Now my horizon, by the way, is this line I chose for my dynamic symmetry point, right about there. But not to worry. I'm just going to continue to feather that. And in fact, I'm going to add a little white to my fan brush and do a little white feathering. Yeah. So far, I've really just used the one color, and I've added a little gray and white. All right. Remember, you don't have to have 100 colors. All right. Now this is the back part of the painting. But you know what? Not quite done. By the way, I have 3 jars of water over here, because that way, especially during the live painting channel show, I don't have to replenish my water very often. All right. I hope you have plenty of your favorite beverage going on. I do. I'm going to take a moment to watch the chat. All right, we've got quite a few people on board here. Hey, you can send emojis, you can chat, you can interact, ask questions, whatever. Every once in a while I'll check that. So, all right. By the way, music. I forgot to talk about music. I'm not playing it now. Could be copyright issues on my live painting channel. I'll have to research that. But, you know, it's nice to have some music in the background. Joni Mitchell, Norah Jones, some rock and roll, classical music. Do whatever you want. It's your studio. All right, we're going to go in and put some clouds in here. I'm going to get a little brush. This one's a little softer, about a 1/4 inch. Just a little square brush. And, you know, I'm not going to put pure white. I'm going to start actually by kind of making a, I don't know if you can see that really well, but I'm going to do a little bit of just grayish. Start with the gray part of a cloud. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Maybe a little more water. Yeah. You know, the main thing about painting is just to have fun. And by the way, I hope my daughter Amber Stokes is on the program today. Her and I have done what we call Painting Day for many years. Really fun. Love to have her share some of her artwork with you. It's really awesome. And while I'm thanking my producers and writers and so forth, people that helped me, thank you, Jason, very much for helping me with the technology today. Really awesome. And I'm sure many of you that are techno people will wonder how we got all this, how we pulled all this off. Well, frankly, we just figured it out last night. But thank you, Jason, for that. Well, that one started to drip a little bit, you know, but sometimes drips are okay. In this case, I'm just gonna, do a little more, little light feathering to get rid of some of the things that I just feel like I just didn't want that there. Okay, very good. Now we're gonna put some of the base layer of the clouds in. Now, there's a lot of places you can gain inspiration, photos, but I forgot to mention other artists, so plug another artist that I like here. I like this Bill Saunders. He's a landscape painter. It's a calendar. Good work, Bill. Keep up the great work. Very inspiring. But in this case, I kind of like the way he's treated clouds in a lot of his paintings, so let's just sort of see what we can do with that. Put that aside. I'm going to go back to my gray. Make it just a little darker. Why not? Okay. Now, the technique that I'm using is really called wet on wet. Even though with acrylics this doesn't take too long to dry. So you need to have plenty of paint on your brush and plenty of whatever your medium is, in this case water, on your brush. Otherwise it'll just make a gooey mess. You'll see what I'm doing right here. So I'm just making my little mini palette of gray here. I'm going to say I think I want a cloud to start rolling in. I'm going to do something, speaking of rolling, I'm just going to roll my brush a little bit. Hey, that looks fun. Ooh, I like that. I'm going to roll my brush up and down and here and about. Change the hue a little bit. Remember we talked about direction of light a little bit, just briefly? Well, that starts to come into play with clouds. In this case, I'm going to have the direction of light be coming from the right. So in the case of where I'm painting here, maybe that's a little later in the afternoon. But we're just going to put a little bit of, we're going to roll just a little dark edge here. And we're going to keep doing that right down this. Where do you think I'm going with that? Turn to the person next to you and see, where is he going with that? I haven't really recorded a video of this in any detail yet, so I'm hoping the audio is coming through loud and clear. You can chat me if it's not. I can always turn it up or turn it down. All right, so we're gonna get real crazy and just put a cloud like, wow, what the heck? That cloud's escaping. Okay, and now I'm gonna do, I don't know, I just felt like a little dark blue with the gray would be good down here. Okay, I'm gonna roll a little of that in. Yeah, cool. Okay, just making ourselves a little cloud. Okay, I'm gonna check the chat box here, see what's happening out there. Okay, all right. I think it's going pretty good. I'm going to switch gears a little, go into a new water container there. So now I'm going to get a little crazy and just go into almost bright white. Not quite bright white, See, I'm just going to, and see how I got my colors sort of organized as I do my blues, and then the center is where I have my whites. And then you can kind of reach back into that and get different gradations without remixing it all the time. All right, ooh, I like that. I'm just going to smash that brush in there and load it up with white. Okay. So I think what we need is some pretty shocking white over here. I mean, not shocking, some brave white. Okay, brave white over here. Right in here, right in there. Very good. A little this and that. It's not maybe your cloud of your dreams yet. We can always add to this. You know, clouds are kind of like, you can use your imagination on the clouds. And one of that painting I was just using as a reference, there's a little surprise in it for you. If you really want to study that painting, you'll see why I call it Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. But I won't reveal that secret right yet. Okay. Kind of liking it. It's pretty good. There's a few little wispy ones over here. Kind of over here too, maybe. Here's one that's trying to sneak down and get closer to those clouds. Okay. You know what? Sometimes you gotta just know when to stop with a certain thing you're doing. Just force yourself. Warren, walk away from the painting. That's what I said. Warren, walk away from the painting. In fact, I think I've screwed up more paintings by overpainting, painting too much. There's a thing called a painterly technique, which you'll read about and hear about, but really it's good. It's okay to have it be a painting rather than a photograph, right? You want a photograph? Take a picture. Want a painting? It's okay to make it look like there's brush strokes and such in it. So, but there is one little thing I wanted to do here, just because I'm going to get back into my almost pure blue, and I'm going to have a couple little areas where a nice pure blue is kind of coming through. I'm going to reinforce that right in here. More of a pure blue. I even want it a little more pure than that. Okay. All I'm doing, going back into my palette, kind of reaching into a little bit different shaded area there. But you know, it's still got a lot of white in it, doesn't it? Yep. Down in here, you know, I just want to have some pure blue, and a little bit of that up here too. Sometimes it's nice if you get a nice little color mixture going, is to kind of put it in the same color mixture in various parts of the painting, because it kind of ties it together. Like I'll put some of that over here. You know, it's not all going to show up, but little hints of it will, even when I start layering, which we're going to get into pretty soon. All right. Okay, good for now. Warren, step away from the painting. It's okay. Well, one more thing. Okay. That's me talking to myself. I do that a lot when I'm painting. Now I've got to just step back and think about it for a second. I'm going to check the chat board. Lots of chats coming in, looking good. Painting okay. All right. I have to make that chat panel just a little bigger, so bear with me while I'm over here in the techno part of my studio. Oh, hey, Kathy. Nice to have you on the show today. Kathy Burlage, my favorite sister, one of my favorite sister-in-laws. She lives in Wisconsin, up near Manitowoc, last I heard. Great. Got a lot of reach today with today's program. People from all over starting to get into the live painting channel. Okay, so I am going to let this dry for a little while we work on another part. And I said layer it from back to front, and so that's what I'm going to do. The next level would be, sort of a vegetation level, a layer, if you will. And for that, I am just going to put some gray in to start off with, because we're getting into what we call the light and dark part of it. A little more water. So in this case, I just feel like there's some kind of dark vegetation that's going to be occurring kind of out in here. Maybe something like that. Maybe some of it's pretty dark. I don't know. I that. And remember, we're going to spice it up a little, maybe not. We're going to put a little more dark matter. I think that's sort of a physics term. Dark matter. Ooh, dark matter. Sounds like Darth Vader kind of. But anyway, over here we're going to just keep on keeping on. And maybe one tree or thing got bigger than the rest. Okay. So remember, this is just kind of a little bit of layering here. Don't worry about it. As you can see, it's not brain surgery, nor is it really, at this point, it's artistic, it's not scientific. Okay, now I'm using that fan brush, which you notice if you put it on the edge, it can create a little detail just sort of automagically as I do things in it, okay? That's looking okay for now. A little bit more of that same action now over right up in here. I don't know, because that sort of line was sort of tempting me to, or telling me, Warren, I think we need some dark matter here. And that's looking pretty good. And, you know, maybe some of that dark matter stuff ought to go right over here. I think so. And just like blah, 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 blah. If I had music, I would be doing this to the music right there. Okay. And many of you are going, oh, shoot, doesn't look like a painting, really. Looks like a mess. Well, we'll see. It could turn out to be a mess. Maybe an artistic mess. You never know. I don't know. I think I got a little more gray in there. Whatever. Looking. Now, what you do is you squint to get the light and dark. So you step back and you even close one eye and kind of squint. Because if it's all the same light and dark, you're going to find that the impact of the painting isn't as strong. And nature usually has quite a lot of light and dark stuff going on. Okay, so you want to squint. Ooh, maybe this continues. See that little diagonal there? Maybe that dark stuff continues right down that little diagonal. Maybe it does. Okay. All right, now a little bit more kind of neutral, semi-dark stuff. Okay, this is good. All right, I'm going to step back for a minute, reload my brush, and think about my next layer. Feel free to chat. Some of the comments coming in. Oh, hey Iris, Iris, my daughter. Hi Iris, you're on the channel. It looks like today. I don't know if any of you are painting along. Just chat me and let me know how it's going. Okay, I'm still here in the studio. I just need to get myself a different brush, clean one out. Yeah, I think I'm gonna. Ooh, this ought to be fun. You're gonna get a kick out of this. All right, I just grabbed a brush. What? What an ugly brush! It's like I should throw that away. Actually, not. I use these brushes. Look at this. I'm just gonna smash it up even more. Kind of crazy, huh? Okay, I'm just gonna smash that brush. If you can all see that, but the reason I did that is because I don't mind some randomness to my art. In fact, nature is largely seemingly random, even though in future programs we'll talk about how that's not entirely true. How there is a thread of order that runs through all of nature. But I digress. Also, might just throw a little philosophy in that future program. But today we're just going to start working with now a green shade. Green. I don't mind mixing it a little with my gray. It's one of the reasons I have it next door there. Because frankly, and white. Like I said, nature has very rarely all kinds of pure colors unless you're in a flower garden or something. Even then, the light and dark, you'll see. Start painting. I'm just going to smash this up real good. And I'm going to make it a pretty dark green to start off with over here. Alright, and I'm just going to start doing some stuff along in here. You know that whole idea of rolling a brush? Maybe that would be cool. Oh yeah, I'm liking it. Okay, might as well go all the way over. And maybe just a little bit of that same color down here. Remember, I'm just layering some background. All this is so far is just a little bit of layering here. But I want to get a little contrast in there, so I'm going to put some contrast in that puppy. You know, I'm going to go crazy and just, this is going to be weird, but I'm going to put some deep dark blue. That's pure right out of the palette. But I'm going to do it. I'll see and I just kind of like, blues and greens, sometimes your eyes, if you notice, will kind of interplay them anyway. And why not? I kind of like that whole effect. So Well, I'm in the dark zone here. Dark zone. Let me just put some more of that in there. But I kind of like it. Might get a little crazy. I'll go over clear over the edge. Okay. And something right there. Okay. There we go. Put some blue as well as some green. I'm going to go back, clean my brush, or get a new one. And continue. All right. Squint, step back. Okay. We're going to now make a new color green. In this case, I'm just going to lop a little bit of this bright yellow over here. A lop right next to my green. I'm going to throw a little bit of white in that little area, and I'm just going to see what I can come up with. I kind of like it. So what if we just do that roll technique again, because we might end up sticking to that. I'm going to just roll this over here, roll it down here, and just kind of daub. I don't know if that's a real technique, but I'm calling it that, daubing. Get back into that green pile. But maybe there's a little bit of, watch this, when I put a little bit of other pigment or shade on the brush, at the same brush I have kind of the light yellowish green and the dark green. And you can actually do things with that, especially with this rolling technique. See what that did? Works real good in watercolor too, by the way. So I'm actually just rolling my brush on the edge of those two segments there. And we're going to apply a little bit more like that just because I kind of liked it. Okay. And there we go. Why not? That looks interesting. Okay, no, I'm just, this is actually, in my mind, it's sort of it's a field. It's a field out by the park. Okay, I kind of like that green, and the blue got a little carried away for me, so I'm just going to dab over that. So what I'm doing now is I'm doing a type of layering. This is sort of, I just invented the term daub layering. You daubed the new paint on the previous still wet paint. Do a little bit of daub layering in there. And it's amazing. All these little things are more or less, as you can see, random accidents that I'm doing. By the way, I ordered a webcam with zoom lens. Really good deal, right off Amazon. No product placements intended. If the doorbell rings, it's supposed to come in today, but I'm just using, let me tell you a little bit about my equipment for the program today for those techies out there, or just the people that are just curious. I'm using about an 8-year-old laptop, Toshiba, half broken, still works though, and I'm running Windows 10 Home Edition on it, which I recently upgraded to from Windows 7. And I use an old version of Office for the slide deck that I was showing you, PowerPoint, and we're going to go back into that towards the end of the program, just to sort of wrap up. And then my son Jason helped me get all set up with the technology to do the live streaming. Facebook, we're on Facebook now, but remember we're also going to be I'm on Twitch now. That's another artist kind of hangout channel. You should check it out. I'll post my link at the end of today's program. But it was not easy. That's why I would be delighted to share it with any of you how we got it all. Or maybe I'd have to have Jason buy him lunch or something and explain it. Okay, I'm liking it. I don't know about you, but I think it's okay. So we just have done, just to kind of recap, our composition is really kind of based on geometry of the rectangle I'm working with. By the way, the proportions, I forgot to mention this, is very, very interesting. The proportions of the canvas are not out of box. Almost every canvas I work with nowadays, I cut to my own proportions. With this canvas board, it's really quite easy. Big, large pair of scissors or tin snips or kind of like a box knife, you can cut it to your dimensions. But I wanted to just, while the paint dries here, explain a little bit more about proportion. In fact, you could even say that there's a riddle, that if you answer this riddle, you'll understand a lot about what this proportion is all about. Here's the riddle. Are you ready for it? What What number squared is equal to that same number plus 1? Ask the person next to you, see if they know. Write it down, because you'll see it's a mathematical equation. What number squared is equal to that same number plus 1? Little tip, and people say I never use algebra. Expressed in polynomials, that's what number squared, so that's x squared is equal to x plus 1. X squared is equal to x plus 1. If you resolve that, if you solve for that, if you solve for x, you're going to get the proportion that I recommend as a very pleasing proportion. And I'm in good company. Leonardo da Vinci, the people that whoever designed the Great Pyramids of Egypt, and nature itself follows that same proportion. More on that later. But what that means is that this side is so the smaller is to the larger as the larger is to the whole. And so when I broke down my canvas and I broke it, let's say I divided this line AB at point C in such a way that the smaller is to the larger as the larger is to the whole. And everyone's now going, I got it. Thank you, Warren. Yep, I figured you'd all get it right away. More water. Well, now I'm going to have to make a couple of key decisions here on the painting. You know, it's really up to me. So right now, I think I'm going to make it a little stormier. Okay? So I'm going to go back to my clouds, my sky. If I can get some more water. I have to grab a little more Payne's Gray, so pardon me while I do that. Get that back into my palette. So, see, I ran out of my bit of Payne's Gray. I got to replenish, huh? Okay, I'll do that right now. Another squirt of Payne's Gray in my palette. Get my brush all loaded up. Now you can mix paints with a palette knife. I find it somewhat dainty to do it that way, and don't usually do it that way, but I just usually use my brush and I just lift paint from here to there. In this case though, I just want a little bit of that Payne's Gray, and I'm going to go over here and make kind of my storm cloud dark gray up here. Now it could very well contain a hint of blue in it, and you won't really see it like, oh, there's a lot of blue in that. And it'll look darker on the canvas than it does on my palette. So I'm going to make my bluish gray, my storm cloud gray over here. And I'm going to come out at here. Oh, that's it. Now that looked real light, so I'm going to fix that. You know what? I think I need to get a fresh brush on that one, which I'm going to do right now. Just use a square brush. Another one of these. And by the way, I don't use expensive materials. It's all pretty inexpensive. Buy most of my stuff at Michael's. No, I'm not getting paid to say any of that. Just trying to help everybody out, because a lot of times the question is, where did you get that? Where did you get that? How did you do it? Okay. All right. Now we're gonna load in my dark cloud. Why? Because I was looking outside and just sort of said, maybe this has something to do with the difference between darkness and light, good and evil. Whatever. I'm going to make these dark ones reach out a little bit out here. And heaven forbid if I get like green or something into my brush. Oh my gosh, what would I do? I would just paint over it, by the way. Okay. I got that little dark area up there. Kind of like it. Okay. There, now we got a little storm maybe pulling in here. You can almost hear it. Clouds are just kind of blown around by the wind there. I cheated. I went back to my first layer. Yep, you can cheat. Whatever you want. Okay, this is a brief intermission for me to go replenish my water and for you all to comment on chat or refill your favorite beverage. It'll take me about 45 seconds. I'll be right back. Gotta go to my water source. back. I just had to get more water to clean brushes. Oh, Bob Ross would say, you got to keep the brushes clean. All right, hopefully you're getting back from your little 1 minute break here. I think I'll just have a little sip of water. Contemplate this for just another moment. By golly, I'm ready to do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna really do it here. I'm gonna get myself a brand new clean fan brush. Good for fans too, by the way, if you're not a fan. And I'm gonna load it up with a brand new color scheme here. And it's gonna be so important, I'm gonna actually use a second palette. I'll be right back with you there. I'm just actually loading up a big mess of this into another palette. Hope the audio comes through because I'm moving around in my studio as I talk. We'll get some feedback from y'all later, I'm sure. And better put a little white in there. I always forget that. And I'll just share with you what I'm doing over here on the side in just a second. Yeah. Boy, I gotta buy some more paints. Running low on some of these. Payne's gray and white is what I'm running low on, so that might help give you an idea what's happening here. How the usage of paint goes. So I just used another palette that I used previously. It's actually the same mix of colors. And I loaded in my Naples yellow, that light yellow, and yellow ochre and white. And, oh, one other thing before I do that. All right, sorry, I lied. One other thing. I'm going to introduce some burnt umber into this. And I'll show you why right now. And for the first time, I'm using anything that could be considered a small brush, you notice, right? So I put a little bit of burnt umber and some Payne's gray here. And I want this really wet, so I'm going to keep loading it with water. I'm using my little detail brush here because one of the things that I want in this painting, you don't have to put it in here, but I do, is I want there to be some limbs, and eventually I want it to be some basically some vegetation in here, not just dark matter. So I'm going to start from the top because as you draw your brush down, it gets a little wider. So if it were like a branch, it's not particularly straight. I'm just going to put some indications of what might be branches later on into this. Again, I'm just using burnt umber and Payne's gray to make it dark, but not like black. Alright, a little branch sticking out there. I gotta use plenty of paint and plenty of water. Otherwise it'll not be thin. I think I'll do that over here. Just, hey, a little tidbit for you. Did you know that the branch distribution and leaf distributions in plants follows that same ratio I was telling you about? Yep, true fact. But we're not trying to be exact here. Just sharing a little bit of knowledge as we go. It's amazing how many things tie into that ratio, though, actually. I see that was an important line to me before. So I'm going to expand upon that a little bit. It doesn't matter. You can't really goof up. If something too fat, too thin, don't worry, you'll see. It all comes out in the end. Anyway, you can see what I'm doing. I'm just putting in some branches right now. Where else do I want a branch? I think right in here. Yeah, just a little branch action back in the background. Maybe one was sticking way out over there. Yeah, like it. Okay, just a little bit of branch action here and there. Because later it just pops as the tiniest little bit of detail, you know, and it's almost all going to be covered. I'm revealing the future here, but I'm just going to, maybe there's some sort of big mass of limbs or something right there. I don't know. Okay, so I just wanted to add a little bit of that, and I'm actually going to also hit a little fan brush on that. Let me get, you'll see why. So a medium-sized fan brush, same dark matter. That dark matter, where did I get that? Physics book. Same dark matter. But I'm just gonna use that to create, ooh, you know what? That's creating some nice effects there. Why? Because it's it's just sort of like random. Okay, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. And a bunch of dark matter here. And in fact, this whole area, yeah, that whole kind of like zone, there's a lot of dark matter in it. And growing right in front of it then, I'm starting to see why I put that there then, right? A little row there. Bushes. Vegetation. But I want this one to come all the way down, really dark. Right down along that diagonal. You see why we do that. Okay. Fair enough. Maybe there's just sort of a jumble of stuff as nature tries to survive over here in the park. Okay, as I was promising something very cool and new, here it comes. Hopefully you're all ready for this. Gotta go get my, what do I want? Going, go home or go big? Go big or go home, right? We're gonna go big. All right, now, I know these trees really well out there, and in the fall, very recently, they had this amazing golden color to them. Now you might laugh, but I've really strived hard to get this color mix, and I found it was this simple. Naples yellow, yellow ochre, and some white. And I'm just going to crash in here and start putting a bunch of that in here. Oh my gosh, look at that, holy crap. There we kind of, but it does sort of have an order to it. These kind of grow up like this, actually. Sticking to that same color, and I know it's very bright. People are going, oh my gosh. But I really like it, and that's what matters, is whatever you like. And that color literally just sort of keeps popping up over here, like that. Across here, working its way up into that little vegetation tree mass. And wow, yeah, now we're talking. But you know, that was just one brush, and I gotta think about this for a second. I think I want this one to be like a bigger tree with that same vegetation, and then it comes down to like this one, and I want this one to go up even a little farther. Yeah, why not? Nothing wrong with that, as I always say. Okay. Ah! Woo! Take a moment, replenish brush. I'll check the chat. See if there's any requests or questions. Somebody just got In-N-Out burgers. I'm jealous. I didn't even know there was one in Seattle. Oh no, they're in California. Ah! Visitors. Oh, we got people from San Diego in here. Ah, In-N-Out burgers. Man, makes me hungry. So we have just a little more time today in this program, which I promised to keep to an hour. Hope you've all been enjoying it. What we're going to do now we get to get real crazy here, okay? I said you don't use too many pure colors, and that's true. By the way, sorry, I misspoke. One other thing, then we're going to do something crazy. Let me go over here, and I'm going to get this crazy brush. And we're just going to go back to my other palette for a minute, where I had that nice green. And I'm going to mix me up a little bit more green, a band of a little bit more greenish in here. Just a band. You're going to say that doesn't look very green, but it is. Because I want it to, the eye to kind of have a juxtaposition of elements and colors that kind of interweave. Nature does this a lot. I'm just going to do my dabbing technique here, and I just got kind of a green and burnt umber mix going on here. And I'm going to soften up some of that real dark matter that I put in there. And we're going to go like that. I'm going to just now neutralize some of these bright colors. Now, you don't have to do this. You can leave them as bright as you want. It's your world. But I'm neutralizing. I'm adding just a little kind of neutral green throughout here. But not to completely obliterate those really cool bright blues and greens, just to kind of neutralize some of this, because nature does it too. Nature's beautiful, I think. We're neutralizing some of this. There we go. Light coming from the right, so the neutralizing goes on the left in this world. I'm liking it. Okay, that's a little bright. Neutralize it. Neutralize it. There we go. Now, we're gonna add just a touch of vegetation. I keep saying we're gonna do something really crazy, really fun, and we are in just 1 second. But right now, I'm just gonna put in kind of a, I don't know, tree that kind of lost its leaves. Okay. And that one's kind of reaching out, saying, help, help. Okay, good. Now for something completely crazy. Oh, all I'm going to do is go into the red. Crazy. I'm going to go into my red. How red should we make it, you ask? Quite red. Why? Oop, I don't want that brush. Why? Because blueberry bushes are red in the fall, and that's what this is. I'm going to go to this brush here. To a brand new square brush. No paint, no water on it. Because I want the pigment to be really thick, and I'm going to mix a little bit of my yellows into this. Same yellows. You always want to use the same ones you used otherwise, and it kind of mixes in the same pigment there. And you might look, it doesn't look bright red here, but I'm betting you, when I put a daub of it right here, it's going to look pretty darn red. Yeah, look at that. I got my Naples yellow, my red ochre, and cadmium red mix. It's the three colors, and I'm smashing the brush. Now, the vanishing point thing starts to come into play. Okay, I'm just putting some of the bushes in here. Maybe just add some real brilliant red in there. Why not? Like that. Now these bushes they're actually planted by people. They are blueberry bushes, and they're going down this row, and they follow the vanishing point line. Right? So you can kind of see a little here, a little there, a little tiny bush there, and we're going to do another row of them, starting right here. Maybe one really nice big red one right there. And we're just going to put another row of these in here. They're going to be a little bigger than the ones behind them. Why, you might ask? Because they're closer to you, is the answer. And if they were the same size, they would appear to be larger. But bushes are all sizes, as you know. But we're just putting our little vanishing blueberry bushes. And then there's one you can just barely see here. And there's one there. And right in the corner, just for good luck, one gigantic big red splotch. How about that? Just for the fun of it. And that formally concludes today's painting program. So thank you for joining the Live Painting Channel's premiere event. Delighted to have so many people from all around. And again, thank you for all my family and friends for joining and helping out on this. Jason, again, thanks for all the technology help, and he's quite the artist in his own right, coming out with a new video game soon, or sometime in the future. And Amber, thanks again for all our painting Saturdays. Iris for being such a good cheerleader, and Justine, my wife, for letting me do all this and make the big messes. Thanks again. We're going to go ahead and close with just a little bit of information, and then signing off in about 1 minute. So stand by for 1 second. All right, thank you for bearing with me there. I like to just share a little bit about what I consider the vision for the future of the painting channel. I'm not a psychic, so I don't know what the future brings, but I certainly wish everyone that they can appreciate every day of their life. You know, I found is I just try to be grateful, help others, and enjoy life, and everything seems to work. And I really want to, and my intention is to have the live painting channel be a platform for artists again to gain exposure and knowledge. And I'd like to create the possibility for the live painting channel to promote and support good causes as well, good causes in the future. And finally, let me just post my contact information for a moment. I'll leave this up for now, and the video will be posted, so if you ever want to go back and look at it, you're welcome to. But contact me. I'd love to help you out. Feel free to reach me by email. My email address is here. I'm on LinkedIn, more for business, but feel free to check that out. And also on Twitter, and just got on Twitch. So you can just look up Live Painting Channel on Twitch and you'll find us. Thanks again and have a wonderful day. Take care.